Hi, I'm Ross Benjamin, along with Chip Chirimbes. We're the co-hosts of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Tuesday, December 15th, and today we're going to be discussing an early look at the NFL betting lines for this coming week. But before we get to that, we're going to discuss what we witnessed this past week in the NFL, and certainly a great game last night, Chip, with an ending that made some people happy and some people very distraught.
Well, I was one of the distraught ones because I had seeked out that half point and I had it there. And, you know, things like this is happenstance. Things like this happen. I remember having Northwestern against Ohio State leading the entire way. Ohio State scores a touchdown with 12 seconds to go or 4 seconds to go. And on the final play, they end up recovering the ball in the end zone for a touchdown and getting the cover. Like I said to you, Ross, 2 weeks ago, I had that Philadelphia side where I had no business winning or covering the spread, and I won. But this one certainly hurts because you thought you really had this one in the bag. And this is why I say, Ross, we only pay on final scores.
Yep, exactly right. I mean, I mentioned this to you off air. They honed in on, they focused in, I should say, on a Cleveland fan at the end of the game last night, and he had all this Cleveland Browns paraphernalia on, and he was on either side were two other Cleveland Browns fans, uh, clad in Browns paraphernalia, and this guy had his head buried in his hands, and he was just like, for lack of a better adjective, distraught,
Yeah. Yeah.
and his buddy was consoling him, and I'm saying, wait a minute, they're both Browns fans. Why is he consoling? Well, then it dawned on me. I says that's safety. That guy probably had Cleveland plus 3.5, and that safety on the last play of the game just absolutely crushed him. Not only did he have to watch his team lose in the final seconds on a 55-yard field goal, he had he
You
had
know,
to
Ross,
endure that. And I really felt bad for the guy. I did. It's a laughing matter
this is
now, but I
this is
don't think.
why this is why I used to say to customers all the time. I said, I'll tell you what, don't even watch the game. Take your girlfriend, your wife, your partner out to dinner and come back and read about it and see the final score. I mean, you could have watched, you had everything invested in that game. You watched that game, the entire game. At one point, you were expecting it to go overtime. At one point, you were expecting to get lost. Your emotions were up and down. It was a great game in that regard. And then what difference did it make? At the end, I mean, that last final play, so you don't even have to watch the game. You can just hear the final score.
Ever since teams started doing that, and this didn't always happen, right, Chip? Back in the day, you didn't see teams lateraling the ball all over the field.
Right,
They either returned the kickoff all the way, or they threw a pass, they threw a bomb, and hope for the best kind of thing.
right.
But now I've seen so many of these situations in both NFL and college football where the laterals at the end of the game
Why
end
didn't they
up,
kick the ball out of the end zone
yeah. Well, yeah, that
on the
too.
kickoff? That
Yeah.
would
Yeah, I mean, six of one, half dozen the other. My point being is
sorry.
that I've seen too many point spreads be determined in recent years. Not a lot, but I could recollect at least 5 times where I've seen similar incidents happen where they're lateraling the ball all over the field and ends up being picked up and returned for a touchdown or ends up in a
Ross,
safety.
we've seen at least 3 games. I mean, 5 games where there have been 3 scores within the last minute.
Yeah.
Not someone scoring with 52 seconds, the other side coming down, but I'm talking about 3 scores in the last minute, and where it's just seesawed back and forth. It makes for incredible viewing, I guess. But to the gamblers and the players and the bettors, oh my goodness, what emotions and ebbs and flows we are going
Yeah,
through.
and all in all, that was a great game last night. If you're
Yeah.
just a viewer with no betting interest, which we probably not talking to too many people right now who qualify in that regard, but including ourselves, that was a great game to watch as an NFL fan. It was everything you could have asked for. Anyway, let's talk about some of these games coming up.
Okay.
Thursday night, Chipper, the Las Vegas Raiders, who pretty much been eliminated, they're mathematically alive at 7-6. They were crushed at home last week by Indianapolis. The week before, barely beat the Jets on a miracle play because of the arrogance of a certain defensive coordinator who's since been fired. Now they're a 3 to 3.5 point favorite, depending on where you're looking, against an LA Chargers team that tried to lose again last week, Chip, but they ended up winning the game by 3 against Atlanta. Any early thoughts on this one?
I think the line is low. That's my first thought. From what I'm gathering and garnering out here, the Raiders also fired their defensive coach this week after, they didn't catch up to any of Phillips' floaters. I mean, I expected Rivers to float a few of them out there, and the Raiders were never in the game and were totally outclassed. And I think they're pretty despondent here right now. From what I'm garnering from the newspapers and the media in Las Vegas, Ross, they're kind of sullen. And it's usually not Gruden's way. He's usually a little more upbeat about stuff, no matter how bad things are. But they seem to feel like they may have made a number of mistakes on defensive personnel, and particularly free agency.
Yeah. This was a team that was 6-3 at one time, Chip, and had to knob her up. But they've lost 3 of their last 4, and the only win in that sequence was by way of that miracle play at the end of the Jets game against the winless Jets. So
sound familiar?
Yeah.
Does it sound like Arizona?
Yes, exactly. Only Arizona bounced back for a big win on Sunday, which was much to your happiness, because that was your top play.
But you know what? We found out the Giants are who we thought they were, and they still are that bad.
Oh boy, if I hear that saying one
they
more time.
They got no offense, Ross. Nothing.
No. Well, I mean, they had a running game, a consistent running game for 5 or 6 games in a row, and it abandoned them on Sunday.
Goldman wasn't all that bad. I think he had 12 carries for 60 yards. That's 5 yards an attempt, but they were just so totally overwhelmed right from the start. I think they sacked. How many times did they sack?
6 times.
6 times.
Yeah.
And
and then once they had to abandon the run because they fell behind by so much, it got worse. The Giants got to be a team like the game against Seattle. They were only down 5-0 at the half. Right. They got to be, if they stay in the game through 3 quarters and they could stick to the running game and be balanced offensively, it goes a long way. But when they get in those obvious pass modes, their offensive line isn't good enough to hold up in pass protection. And yes, he did have a decent game, Wayne Gallman, but you start out the game by driving the midfield, promising drive, and then Jones gets sacked and fumbles and scoop and score, and you're down 7-0 right off the bat. So it was all downhill from there. And you're right, Chipper. They got dominated in that game. Giants only had like 150 yards of total offense. Anyway, let's move on to Saturday. We got 2 games on Saturday, Chipper.
Yes.
Carolina at Green Bay. Now, this one is sort of intriguing because let me just start by saying this. The Packers opened as a 9-point favorite. They continue to be a 9-point favorite. The total is 51.5, folks. You always got to check the weather in Green Bay in December before you dabble into a total there, namely an over. But anyway, Chipper, Green Bay's clinched the division title last week.
Yep.
Are they in for a letdown? Is this look like a potential flat spot? This Carolina team, they've started out, I believe, 3-1, and they've gone south since then, but they continue to play hard for their head coach, Matt Rule. So what's your thoughts early on when looking at this line?
My thoughts are that Aaron Rodgers always finds a way to beat me somehow. And, last week we were thinking about Detroit. We passed on it. And of course, it ended up a close game. And the week before we did have Philadelphia. It's a close game at the end. And then Packers seem to always get there with him. But the intriguing part about this is the thing you mentioned, Ross, is that they've already clinched. But, there's only one team getting a bye in each conference. So I don't think they're going to look to let up here. And the way that the season's going with the people getting sick here and there, I think that there's more urgency in each game. Whether they cover this number or not, that remains to be seen, because I think Rule, in spite of that Panther record, they've been very competitive. I think he's done a great job. They've been without McCaffrey, 75% of their
games.
He's
listed as questionable, by the way, going into this game, which is better than doubtful.
And even if he plays, Ross, I mean, how effective is he going to be? you got these nagging injuries. You're not 100%, and someone else out there is, and you're liable to get lambasted. But a team against team here, we know Green Bay is the better team. Their motivation is going to have to be. We're going to have to see. I'd say check the media sources during the week and see if you can garner in anything from their quotes.
Yeah, well, you made a good point because they went into last week 2 games behind New Orleans, but they do have the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
New Orleans gets knocked off by Philadelphia, and they win, and they clinch the division. They're only 1 game behind New Orleans for the top seed in the NFC, and they hold the tiebreaker. So if those 2 teams end up in a dead tie, then Green Bay will get the number 1 seed.
And New Orleans are
winning the head-to-head matchup.
Is New Orleans a dog to Kansas City this week?
New Orleans is a dog against Kansas City, correct.
Okay, so they very well could be tied after Sunday.
Yes, the game is New Orleans is a 3-point home underdog as we speak against Kansas City.
All right, that's a tough one.
Yeah, New Orleans coming off a loss. I got to take a look at how they do coming off a loss. I can't imagine they don't have a good record in recent years coming off a loss. So we'll see. Anyway, the other game on Saturday pitched the Buffalo Bills going to Denver to take on the Broncos, and that's going to be a 4:30 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. Chip opened at 4.5, Buffalo up to 6.5. Total opened at 48, up to 50. Denver's a weird place in December, even in any month, because one day it could be 75 and sunny, and the next day could have 12 inches of snow. That's just the nature of the climate there. So, again, you want to keep an eye on the weather in Denver for Saturday, especially if you're looking at the total. Having said that, the Bills, with a win, can clinch their first AFC East title since 1995. So, I think it's inevitable they're going to do so, but just a little icing on the cake for incentive. Denver coming off a win at Carolina last week. So any thoughts early on?
Since you were a teenager, they haven't won this division. But
yeah, I'd like to think I was a teenager in 95.
Goodness, I was just getting out of high school.
Yeah.
Well, I was teaching. I was getting out every day. Yeah, interesting. I think the bookmaker and the public have a different opinion on this game, Ross.
Yeah.
You look at that number coming up. I went, you were the first thing I thought of. And I said, here we go. After these 2 great performances by the Bills, if they're going to lag, if there's going to be a letdown, if there's going to be a spot where they're not quite going to be mentally prepared, Denver's a spot where it could happen. Like you said, on the road there, it's not a pleasant trip. And the Broncos, they played fairly well. They played well against Kansas City. They come up and they beat Carolina. The team's coming along, maturing, and I'm afraid for the Buffalo fans here because this could be a place where they really get the door slammed right in their face.
It's possible. And look, you make a good point. Buffalo not only coming off 2 impressive performances, but they're coming off 2 impressive performances on a national stage. Yeah. Sunday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then that Monday night game at San Francisco. When that happens, and I can't recollect in my recent memory where a team has played 3 nationally televised games in a row where they're the standalone game on that day. Well, it's really not a standalone game, but it's the only game going on in that time frame, right?
Right.
I can't imagine the general public won't be all over Buffalo based on what they've witnessed the last 2 weeks.
I was going to say that, Ross. I said, if you hit your total objectivity and didn't look at it as a fan whatsoever, this is why, my first thoughts were of you on this game. And I said, this is going to be a tough spot for him. Because
I've said that the last 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you had, maybe you go 3-0.
Yeah.
Where were you?
I've said it the last 2 weeks, and I've stayed off of them because of that, Chipper. And you had Pittsburgh. It was one of your only losers of the week. I thought you were on the right side. I really did.
Well, it's a funny type of season we've had here, and plus the fact, if this was an exact science, Ross, there would be no gambling. It wouldn't be allowed. What are you going to do? Let people not work for a living and just make bets? So that's not going to happen. You have to have a little.
We've done it. We've done it for umpteen years.
Yeah, but we're working.
Yeah, I know we are.
You
People
know,
don't realize that. They think we're
no,
throwing darts up against the wall.
yeah, no. It's
So anyway, let's get on to the Sunday board. Uh,
okay.
okay, so now the Cleveland Browns at the New York Football Giants.
How about that?
Yeah, how about that? How talk about irony. Now Cleveland coming off that heartbreaking loss to Baltimore last night. The New York Giants were flattered in a pancake on Sunday after making a nice run, winning 4 in a row. All of a sudden, the Giants now are no longer in first place. It's the Washington football team that's in first place. Right now, Chipper, the Cleveland Browns are a 4-point favorite. The total in this game is 45.5. Who bounces back here to get a cover?
Well, you know, first off, the Browns may feel bad about having lost that game, but I don't think they feel as bad as their backers did in losing that game.
Oh, no doubt
There's a
about it.
little difference there. I mean, there was one point in that game they're down 14 points in the fourth quarter, and they may have already thought that we're really not going to pull this one out. The Giants had no chance whatsoever. You talked about being flat, and I think this game's the Giants' season. I really do. I think if they don't win here, if they don't come up with that kind of effort, they're in trouble the rest of the way out. I think they close the year on Dallas, and Dallas is starting to play football again. The Giants are going to end up in the NFC least basement of all the things. And you know what the funny thing is, Ross? Probably more energy and excitement is being created in the East and in
No doubt about it. It's
in the
amazing,
NFC
isn't it?
because there's so many teams. I mean, even Chicago and Minnesota. In the NFC, there's a whole bunch of teams that have a chance to make it. And the AFC is pretty much you laid out there. You know, you can see it, and all the energy is coming on the worst teams in football.
Yeah,
And
well,
I
you
think
know,
it's
the worst team, 4 teams from large markets too, Chip. So
well,
that
Washington's good though. I can tell you, Washington's a lot better than people think so. And
yeah,
this kid Young, who picked up that football, reminded me of a guy by the name of Lawrence Taylor when he picked
unbelievable.
up that fumble and he went around the end and scored on a touchdown, and there was nobody catching him.
I thought he was a wide receiver the way he was running. You
Now
know,
you know why he was the number one pick, and I think
So-
they shored up their defense really. And we've talked about it all season long for the people the Johnny come latelys that this team can play football
especially
offensively.
defensively,
Yeah,
especially.
offensively they'll struggle, and Alex Smith has been positive, and we'll see how he's supposed to be able to recover from his calf
I
injury.
hope so because
Oh
that's
yeah,
a great
yeah,
story. Not only has it been a great
yeah,
story, it was a feel good story.
yeah.
And, it went beyond a feel good story when, all of a sudden they started winning since he's been their starting quarterback and being productive. All of a sudden they had a passing game. So I hope so. I mean, look, the guy's been through a lot. He's on the right team right now, because they believe in him and they're surging right now.
And
So
he protects the ball. I mean,
he
he knows.
always has, Chip.
He's a veteran. He knows how to matriculate a drive. Thank you, Hank Stram. And he's a guy that you want to run an offense, particularly if you're looking at ground control and defense. He's like a perfect fit. And we can see why Rivera didn't want Haskins there. And he said Haskins can't run the offense. He just
Yeah.
doesn't know the plays. So Alex Smith has done the job. He's done a great job, and it is a great story.
Yeah, Haskins had to relieve him, and I'm sure reluctantly put in the game by Ron Rivera. Let's not forget, yeah, Haskins was a number one choice of the Redskins, draft choice, I should say, of the Redskins 2 years ago. But he's not Rivera's guy. Rivera wasn't there then,
No, right.
so he feels no loyalty or allegiance toward Dwayne Haskins. And you mentioned Alex Smith. He's been like that throughout his career, Chip, protecting the football. The guy's got a high IQ. I think he graduated from the University of Utah when he was a sophomore. He was so smart, So yeah,
No
looking
wonder.
forward.
No wonder he went undefeated under Meyer. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it,
Urban Meyer was there. People don't.
yeah,
People forget Urban Meyer started right out there at Utah. He was coaching before then,
yeah,
but that's where he
and,
really started to make his
and he
name.
got Alex. He got this guy a number one draft pick. I
Yeah,
mean, that
no
was a
doubt.
great job. You want to talk about being a great college coach? There it is.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of Washington, let's look at that game. Seattle at Washington on Sunday afternoon. That's going to be a 1 p.m. kickoff. The Seattle Seahawks right now are a 6-point road favorite, Chipper. The total at 44.5. You know what? This looks
Yep.
tricky to me because that looks like a heavy number to, considering Washington and how they're playing, Seattle with their defensive deficiencies, although they've been much better of late. But again, how much weight can you put in their defensive performance when they faced the New York Jets last week? What's your thoughts here? Be opened at 5, it's up to 6.
Um, that's really strong. A couple of things about this game. Washington, their offense isn't all that good. We're aware of that. And when I looked at this game, the first thing I said is this: they are physically more imposing than the Seahawks. To me, they just appear. We've talked about the eye test, and we talked about in college football with the FBS ratings and stuff. But they just, to me, looks like a physical team. But you know what? Last week they beat the 49ers by, I think it was 8 points or 6 points. 2 defensive touchdowns are one an 80-yard return, one when this Chase Young that I told you the second coming of Lawrence Taylor picked up a fumble and scored at the end. No one getting near him. So offensively, they're struggling. We know that Seattle can move the ball. Can they move it against this Washington defense? But when I first looked at this game and I saw 3.5, I sort of did a chuckle and I said, won't the public be enamored with Seattle here and still think that Washington can't play? And the line has gone up. And Ross said during the week, I hope to find out from you if that was, sharp money. Was that money, or was that the public hitting?
Is it Alex Smith related too? You know what I mean?
Okay.
If you saw, I didn't see the 3.5 right now. What I'm looking at is it opened at 5, but if it did indeed open at 3.5 and it went to 6, I can't imagine that doesn't have something to do with the uncertain status of Alex Smith. Now, you told me that you read in the New York Times yesterday that Alex Smith, it was just a bruised shin or bruised calf?
Calf.
Strained calf?
Calf.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, that was the New York Post. I don't read fiction, so I don't get the New York Times. But
from a true conservative.
Well, what can I tell you? We got a point spread to talk about here. It's important. 6 points in Washington, to me, it looks large. Maybe I'm wrong because of the Alex Smith situation. If he's not going to play, I really don't want Washington. Like I said, they were outgained by the Niners by over 100 yards offensively, and it was those 2 defensive touchdowns that turned that game around. But they're like the Dolphins. They just get outgained every week and they win. So I mean, what's that happen? How about that backdoor cover at the end, Kansas City and Miami last week?
Yeah, and Miami again. They faced 5 winning teams this year. When I say 5 winning teams, Miami has played 13 games thus far, and only 5 of them have come against teams that currently have a winning record. And they've given up 400 or more yards in all 5 of those games. So
their coach pulled one of the wisest moves, and I've seen it happen a number of times in the past. But it gave himself a chance to win, down 10, had the ball deep into the opposition's territory, and on first down kicked the field goal because he knew he needed the time and he needed the 2 scores. Let me grab the first score now and pray till we get the ball on an onside kick. So that was the backdoor cover, which was illogical, never really should have happened. But for us, point spread wise, it made a lot of sense because they went down 14 and they really, and then 10, and they really weren't supposed to cover until the final.
Well, I mean, you can't argue with that logic. I mean, because what do you want to do? Take 40 seconds off the clock trying to score from the 28? You got to score twice anyway.
Exactly. You have a minute left. It's going to take you a minute to score. So kick the field goal now and get the ball. So
I mean, I didn't have a problem with that, and I'm sure again you're going to get the conspiracy theorist out there.
We didn't have it other than the fact that I think you had the over in that one, which was an easy one.
I called the over early in the week and I didn't use it. So let's not go there.
Ross, I thought for sure that was one of your stronger plays.
It was early in the week. And then I got scared off when I saw the money going that way. So anyway, Philadelphia and Arizona, all of a sudden the Eagles got a new lease on life, Chipper. They come up with that upset win on Sunday over New Orleans. And that was a nice call on your part.
Thank you.
And they're going to be taking on Arizona at Arizona. It's going to be a 4:05 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. This game opened with Arizona being a 5.5 point favorite. I'm seeing them anywhere from 6 to 7 right now, Chip, depending on where you're looking. So obviously, the books nor the public or nor the sharp players were impressed with that win by Philadelphia last week, and don't believe that they come up with 2 strong efforts in a row based on what I'm looking at, not only the opening line, but the early movement in this game.
Well, this is going to be my wildlife game of the week because the Eagles are going to soar. It's a ground game with Hurts, that's for sure. But you know, Arizona beat the Giants. Who's impressed? I'm not so impressed. And the Eagles really come up with a pretty dominating performance last week, and they still have a shot, and they still believe they have a shot, and they're the reigning division champions. And I think you're going to get a great effort out of the Eagles here.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm a little sour with Jalen Hurts because I had the under in that game against New Orleans, and Philadelphia was up 24-14 with a minute to go in the game, and it was a second down play, and New Orleans only had 1 timeout left, so you run the ball, let them use their last timeout, be time, and then you're around midfield, and if you have to punt, they're going to have no timeouts with about 15 seconds to go and have to go to length of the field in a 10-point game, and lo and behold, Jalen Hurts runs the ball and he gets the ball punched out. And of course, New Orleans recovers. And of course, within 3 plays, they score a touchdown and I lose on the under. But anyway, having said that, he brings a new lease on life to this team.
Yes.
He's always been a winner, Chipper. He won at Alabama. He lost his job to Tua. Okay. He hung in there and then actually ended up pulling the SEC title game off when Tua got hurt. And, then he goes to Oklahoma, ends up in the college football 14 playoff there, has a terrific year. He's a character kid.
Well, and like so many of these other quarterbacks we're seeing nowadays, he's a better runner than he is a thrower and always has been. And, I'll never forget his junior year against Auburn. I had the Tigers then, and Tigers physically were dominating the Tide for the most part, except when it was 3rd and 12 and 3rd and 11 and 3rd and 8, and he called a quarterback draw, and he made first down after first down after first down and sustained drive after drive because of his legs. And then after you do that 3-4 times, you come up, and then all of a sudden you pull up short, and guys are standing there. The receivers are so open they could call a fair catch on the ball because they're reacting to him.
Well, and, that's the thing about having a mobile quarterback, and I think that's the way to go these days. I mean, the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes, even Dak Prescott when he was healthy, guys that can extend the plays but keep their eyes downfield. Their first instinct is not to run. Well, Josh Allen, I could say from watching him since the beginning of his career, wasn't always like that, but he is now. And that presents a whole different challenge for a defense, especially a secondary, because you can only cover for so long, right, Chip?
Absolutely. And, a mobile quarterback, there's so many things that I go back to the Bradshaw days and even Roethlisberger. They weren't all that mobile, but it was hard to bring them down.
Yes.
And they could sustain the play. People would bounce off them, and they could either still throw it away, throw it downfield, or run. And this hurts. I was happy. I had Philly as my top play, and they did exactly what I thought they were going to do. And I think it's going to be hard for teams to adjust to him right now.
Yeah. And again, you got to think that the Eagles, namely their offense, are a little bit revitalized right now.
Sure.
They needed something fresh. They needed a guy that wasn't going to kill them, like Carson Wentz had been doing right along. Talk about a regression. Anyway,
18 INTs, 3 fumbles. It's just it's same thing happened. Regression with the Giants and Jones. Holding on to the ball was his big issue. What'd you say? First play of the game, he lets it go, and it's a scoop 6.
First drive of the game. They were moving the ball, and he took a blindside hit. He didn't see a blitz coming. He fumbled, score.
You gotta have it. Ross. Isn't there a timing instinct you should have in your head to be able?
Well, they say you should have a clock in your head, right? Yeah. So, and I think a part of his problem is he's just young, and he doesn't have that clock yet. And you look at his passing numbers, considering the team he's had around him offensively, his passing numbers are pretty darn good, Chipper.
I think they can win with him. I do.
Yeah.
I think they can win. He just
But he's got to improve that part of his game.
yeah.
He doesn't, and that's a young quarterback, not picking up blitzes, not seeing where
He
blitzes
can
are
throw,
coming
he can
from.
throw the ball though.
No doubt about it. And he's mobile enough that he can move the chains with his legs. I mean, I
As
mean,
long as I didn't have to trip over one of the
yeah,
painted word marks.
it's what I was going to say. That run on that Monday night game where he went 75 yards and tripped on his own at the 10-yard line. Talk about a blooper film. Anyway, Kansas City at New Orleans. Before we wrap up, this is the
Okay.
game of the week, far and away. And New Orleans coming off that loss. Kansas City continues to win, but not cover, Chip. They sort of been not unimpressive, but uninspiring. And if you could say that about a team that's 12-1.
Well,
But that seems to be the case of late with Kansas City. Anyway, the Chiefs opened as a 3.5-point road favorite here. And they're now down to 3. And the total has gone from 50 to 51.5. No surprise there. But I have to check on the status of Drew Brees. Do you have any information you could share?
um, not at all. I thought that he was supposed to come back this week.
He's going to be eligible to come back this
Yeah.
week off the IR. Now,
Yeah.
whether he's set to go or not is
Right.
another story, But
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it becomes a more difficult decision, right? Because if you win last week against Philadelphia, you got a comfortable 2-game lead over Green Bay for the top seed. Now, all of a sudden, you lose to Philly, Green Bay wins, and you're only 1 game ahead of them, and they hold the tiebreaker on you because they beat you early this season. Again, that decision, if indeed he's healthy enough to go, you don't have that luxury of saying, well, let's give him 1 more week to rest.
Well, their substitute quarterbacks haven't been bad at all. What would they say? They were 9-0 coming into last week, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. But you said Kansas City hasn't been winning. Is it their fault they're not winning against the point spread, or is it the odds makers' fault? They just go out and win those games. If the odds makers set different numbers on the games, they'd have a better point spread record. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's hard to pick on a team that's 12-1.
Yeah, I'm not disappointed in them at all. And what I'm seeing out there, and plus the fact that I think their overall intensity, for these teams that have won, I mean, year in, year out, it's difficult for them knowing what it takes to win at the end. For them to have that same kind of impetus or momentum or esprit de corps from the all season. And so maybe opening week, they're sitting there, they're high, they're regular, and then the season's a long grind. And this has been kind of unique as it is, Ross. So I think Kansas City's fine. I think they're in a great spot. I think they're in a spot again to win and not cover. So, I mean, that line is kind of shallow. I think that the public, I haven't gone crazy with this game yet, but it's only Tuesday, right? I mean, we're talking about, it's Tuesday, but I think the movement's going to be on the Chiefs, particularly after the way the Saints lost last week. And I'm knowing if Brees is going to be there or not, maybe the key factor in having a side.
Yeah, and let's not forget, usually when you're the world champion and then you start out 12-1 or 10-1 or 8-1, you have a target on your head all year long. So you're going to get an opponent's A game when they come up against you, because everybody wants to beat the defending world champion, especially defending world champion with the record they have right now. To my point, they failed to cover 5 games in a row, and it included wins over Carolina, 33-31. At Las Vegas, 35-31. At Tampa, 27-24. Home against Denver, 22-16. And then last week's 33-27 win at Miami, in which they had a real big lead in that game. And like Chip alluded to, they got backdoored in that game. Also, keep in mind, Kansas City failed to cover that game. A lot had to do with their 4 turnovers they committed last week, too. So it's going to be a great game, I think, Chipper. It's a real something to look forward to. Most definitely the big game of the week. Having said all that, Chip, college basketball has been very good to you so far this year. I know you're coming off a 2-1 win. Introduce your website to the folks out there and tell them what you got going tonight.
Thank you, Ross. Every day I'm looking to post 3 college basketball games led by what I call my mega buck play, which is my single strongest play every day. And right now we hit 3 in a row and 4 or 5. Ross and 2-1, 3 straight nights, and now 16-7 in the last 23 releases. Really happy with what we're doing. Sunday we had no plays, but Saturday again, 2-1. Friday 2-1. 3 games out there today on Tuesday. There'll be 3 more tomorrow on Wednesday, and of course football fills in on Thursday and Friday as we move along. But um, the price is very, very, very acceptable. You go on, log on, you get the 3 games and become a winner each and every day. I'm there and I post our record. You know, you do it. We post win or lose what our record was the day before.
Yep.
So if you want to check and see how we're doing, we have a profile and we have a history. So
Yeah, 2-1 every day will make a lot of money, folks.
Yeah, I'll be
It's
happy.
what I always call them 2-1 them to death, Chipper.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Anyway, I have a 3-game package up in college basketball this evening. You can get that package right now by going to my website, rbwins.com. There you'll find all my daily selections, Monday through Sunday. You could also get my 1-week or 30-day package, and it comes with my personal guarantee that if you don't make a profit at the end of that subscription plan, I will extend your package until you do. That's rbwins.com. Again, Chipper's site, chipwins.com. He's been red hot in basketball, coming off a great football week, one of the top handicappers in the country. And that's been not only this year, but it's been long-standing. So his longevity speaks volumes. Anyway, until tomorrow, we're going to have a college basketball show tomorrow. And we're going to give you a couple free picks in college basketball, one from me and one from Chip Chirimbes. So stay tuned. Until then, I would like to wish each and every one of you all the very best, and God bless.